Hey everyone, I'm mL7, a top 500 support main that specializes in playing Ana, and this is my guide to Ana's gun, guide in which I will cover aspects regarding her unscoped shots, scoped in shots, and of course the notorious quickscope mechanic. I have been thinking a lot about how to make this video and I have decided to structure it in two parts. In the first part I wanted to see how I quickscope and how I use her gun in specific scenarios. And in the second part, I'll go in depth about everything I can come up with on the spot, so apologies if I miss anything. So, for people that are interested in only the quickscope mechanic from a practical point of view, as in how to do it, I suggest you only watch the first part, as the second part, although it might go into resident sleeper mode, is worth listening to if you want to know when to do unscoped shots, scoped in shots, and quickscope shots. Of course, it's worth listening to if you like my voice also, but you get the idea. I'll leave some gameplay playing on the second part so you don't get bored. Without further ado, let's start. Okay, seriously now, for you to quickscope, you need a mouse and a hand, forehead. This is the method I use. I use it with the toggle scope on setting, so this might not apply for people that have toggle scope off as a setting. Okay, so again, for those that use toggle scope on, this is how you quickscope. Put your hand on the mouse, you right click, you left click, you right click. Duh, nice and easy. Look on the screen now, like you just right click, left click, right click, but if you do it fast, like you're gonna get the quick scope. So you right click, the second you right click, like the second the scoped animation, if you look at the screen, the second this animation goes in front, like this appears, you left click and then you right click again. So it goes like boom, right click, left click, right click, right click, left click, right click, like this. Right, left, right. Ana has a hybrid weapon from 2 points of view. On one hand it is both hit scan and projectile, and on the other hand it can do both healing and damage. Of course not at the same time, you can do that only with her biotic grenade. It does 70 damage and 75 healing. Keep in mind that this video has been recorded in late November 2018, so some specific aspects might change with time. Big note, hit scan shots leave a trace, meaning that both enemies and allies can see where you are shooting from, apart from trying to figure that out with the gun audio cue. Projectile shots don't leave a trace, but the enemies, if close, can still figure it out where you are playing from. Unscoped shots do not reduce your field of view and do not deny your mobility. They are projectile shots. This means that after you shoot, it will take a little bit of time for the bullet to reach the target, delay that will increase with distance. The travel distance of the bullet in the unscoped mode is 90 meters per second, thus making long unscoped shots hard to hit, as you need to predict where your target will move. To be more specific, if you do a long-range unscoped shot with your crosshair straight on the middle of your target and the target moves right after you shoot, depending on the distance, you might miss as your bullet moves in a slow fashion way, so to say. This means that in the future people might be able to outrun bullets forehead. Joke time over, was trying to make sure you're paying attention. To be noted that this doesn't mean that you should never do unscoped shots from a distance, because there is at least one scenario in which I advise you to do so. When one of your teammates is trying to set up a sneaky play. For example, you're playing on King's Road 3rd point on defense, and your Ryan tells your team that he will do a sneaky shatter, meaning he will hide behind where the enemies will pass, thus shattering them from their backs. The problem is that your Reinhardt is half HP when he tries to set up the play. In this scenario, you need to heal him up to make sure that if he gets spotted by the enemies checking every corner, highly unlikely but still a chance, he can put up a fight with full HP. The way you heal him is doing unscoped shots. This way the enemies cannot see where you're shooting the bullets. By doing this, you're not compromising your Ryan's position and you're also making sure he is healed up. Now the question is, when else do you do unscoped shots? Well, the answer is you do them in short range if you're sure you're going to hit your shots. The reason why you do this is not because of being afraid of giving away your ally's position, but because you want to heal them up fast. The casting time of unscoped shots is 0.16 seconds, while the one for scoped in shots is 0.25 seconds, meaning that on short distances, if you can be precise, it is better to do unscoped shots. I would like to put a lot of emphasis on hitting your shots, because sometimes you might be close range and miss your unscoped shots, Because your allies have very thin hitboxes. Tracer, for example, has a very thin hitbox compared to Reinhardt. In cases like this, sometimes it is better, just to be safe, to do hit scan shots via quickscopes or simple scoped in shots. Scope shots reduce your field of view and deny your mobility. They are hit scan. This means that if you aim at the target and shoot at it, if ping doesn't do funny things to you, you're going to hit your target. Their downsides are: A. They leave a trace, meaning the enemies can see where you are playing from and sometimes they can figure out if you're hitting someone in the distance. B. They limit your field of view, meaning you can see less things around you. And C. They make you immobile. You need to stand still to do scoped in shots. In a game as fast paced as Overwatch is, you almost always want to constantly move to avoid getting shot. With this being said, I highly advise people to use scoped in shots when they feel or know they are not going to be killed easily. Here are some questions you need to put yourself before you stay scoped in. Number 1. If I stay scoped in, can I get killed from long distance? For example, by a Widow, Hanzo, Zen, and so on. Number 2. If I stay scoped in, can I get killed from short distance? For example, you know there is a tracer behind your team, waiting to find the perfect opportunity to kill you. If you stay scoped in, you're a sitting duck to her one clip. Number 3. Do I need to reposition myself? For instance, the enemy is running with Winston Diva. Yes, you stay scoped in, but keep in mind you are immobile, and if you don't reposition yourself, you might be an easy dive target. And number 4. Do I need to see things around me? This is highly subjective, but what I mean by this is sometimes you might get limited information about what is happening on the screen because of limited field of view. If all you need to see in your field of view when you stay scoped in, as in you see 5 of your allies and 6 enemies in front of you, and the answer to all the other questions were no, then this means that most of the times you can answer this last question with no, meaning you can stay scoped in. Another example I would like to give you is when, for instance, you stay scoped in, but there is an ally to your left that is very low HP, and because of you staying scoped in and having limited field of view, you cannot see that he is low HP right next to you and he dies because of it. I don't want to go very in depth on this question because it can get really complicated, so I will just leave you with the examples I mentioned before. To summarize the previous part, if you feel or know you're not going to die if you stay scoped in and you're going to win the team fight, then do it. This comes with experience and with knowing what can kill you and how it can kill you. Keep in mind that you also need to take into consideration how close or far your targets are, so pick accordingly between doing unscoped shots and scoped in shots. Quickscope shots offer the luxury of having hit scan shots and being able to reposition yourself while shooting. If timed correctly, the limited vision of your field of view from the scoped in animation should not last more than a frame on your screen, making the downside that scoped in shots had with limited field of view almost inexistent in this type of shots. The problem with them is that they have a slower fire rate than unscoped and scoped in shots, meaning that it will take longer to hit your team up. This is why high-level Annas use a combination of the three in their playstyle, using them accordingly to the situation. The technique to do them has been covered in the first part of this video. The way to practice them is to try to spend as many hours as possible in Ana paintball or even training range or custom games, trying to do them constantly. View doing quickscopes as a choreography. The more serious hours you put in, the faster and more consistently you will do them. For me, I remember that at the beginning I thought I couldn't do them, but after 2 weeks of daily practice I started doing them. So don't give up and just find your own training routine with them. For example, you can do 15 minutes of shooting training bots quickscopes only, then playing 3 games of Ana paintball and then queuing up for ranked. With time there will be progress. To summarize: 1. Do unscoped shots at close range if you know you're going to hit them, or at long range on stationary allies to not give away their position. 2. Do scoped in shots if the situation allows you to do so. Very unlikely to be uncontested at higher ratings, this is why learning quickscopes is a must if you want to be a very good Ana player. And 3. Do quickscopes if you can't do scoped in shots because the scenario doesn't allow you to do so, or you're afraid you're going to miss your unscoped shots. Also, keep in mind that if you need to reposition, you need to do either unscoped shots or quickscopes. Well, I hope this did not get that complicated at the end. All in all, if at least one person can learn something from this video, then my mission was accomplished. Nonetheless, hope you all enjoyed it. If you want to find out more about my content, feel free to check out my stream on Twitch and my social media, Instagram, Twitter. If you want to join my community on Discord, there's an invite link in the description. Until next time, have a great day or night. Cheers!